Yes. So it's August the 1st, Sunday. As you guys know, it's a little over 2 weeks ago, I believe Michael Brooks passed. I believe that was the 19th of July, if I'm not mistaken. Um, he was my teacher. He was a teacher to many of us. Let's get to it. People are still making tribute videos about him. And people are still remembering him, and I haven't watched all the tribute videos. I haven't. It's there's a lot of them out there, and I just haven't. You know, I look at his videos he did for his show. That he only had like 2 years, and he's got a lot of them. I'm gonna watch them, and it's like I didn't know that much about him when I started listening. I started listening to him, but Majority Report, it was like December of last year, January, it was like December of last year. I started really looking at them kind of like, I'm going to tell you, we lost a good one. And what really got me about Michael, and Majority Report too, but what got me about Michael was that he had a internationalist scope. He was aware of history, and he showed you about FDR. He showed you about the New Deal. He showed you about the success of the left in back in the day, the 1817 revolution in Paris and Paris Commune and things like that, and bringing together South Africa with American apartheid, bringing together these different periods in history that shaped the left. And I think the propaganda that's put on the left is that we are ahistorical people, and that the left, like we're only in like what's going on right now, what's flashy. And I always hated that. There's a part of the left that's like that. That exists. And I always hated that. And it's kind of like a man that's gay, that's in the closet, and he hates camp men that running around with like shirts with holes in them and stuff. And they hate gay men that disrespect themselves, and gay men that are basically a caricature of what a man should be. And so they never come out as gay because that's all they think gay men is. That's how I felt about the left. That the left is a bunch of idiots. People just want to make a bunch of noise, but not have a perspective, a historical perspective, as well as a global perspective on what socialism is, what the future is, and where we need to go next. Michael Brooks, he destroyed that fallacy. He destroyed that notion in my mind 100%. And the Majority Report as well. Yeah, I want to keep them in scope because they're together in my mind. I think Michael would agree with me. I think that he saw his show as an offshoot or an extension of Majority Report, and I cried about it, in another video, because that's how I felt. Like Sam Cedar was gonna, one day pass or retire, and Michael Brooks took over the show. I think that was a part of what hurt him. I think that was like his wonder boy. That was like his, hey, I'm proud of him. But Michael, he had a global perspective on the international left, international workers movement, understanding that we can't just be about America and nationalism, but also having an understanding of climate change, having an understanding of a changing world and what that'll mean for working class, which the right never talks about. The right never discusses climate change. The right never discusses any of that stuff. And what I mean by that is everything we do on the left is we've got a time limit. I feel like that at least, because the world is becoming a lot worse. The world is going to have a lot more problems because of climate change and things like that, and our unwillingness to do anything about it. Michael, he was very clear about that. Yeah, and I'm very clear about understanding history and understanding historical events that have taken place that brought us to this point today. He's very clear about that, and I just think that there's no one on the left that does that. Nobody. You know, and having a deep spirituality. He had a deep spirituality as well. Don't forget that. I don't think that anybody else on the left was like that. You know what I mean? Having a well-rounded perspective of the struggle of the worker. You know, just a well-rounded perspective on world events. You know, and he went on Navarro Media. I think that's one of the ways I found out about him. I started following him. I don't look at it that often. It's British. A lot of it's British stuff. Michael was interested in that, Corbyn and all that, and UKIP and all that, and Brexit. And I don't know, as time has gone on, I find myself less interested in that because I'm so busy trying to understand, like, you know, the pandemic and stuff like that. And you know, the world has changed a lot since I first started following them. But I haven't watched all his tributes. I try, and I don't want to start crying. And I know eventually I will watch all of them, and I'm going to cry. Because I loved him. And I respected him. And I respected him as a leader of the left, of a cosmopolitan left, whatever he wanted to call it, that's fine. You know, I want to respect his memory. And the way you respect someone's memory is you view their project the way they wanted them. They would have wanted it to be viewed, even if it's not your verbiage and your notions. Like I said, there's sometimes at work, you know, you be doing this, or you're waiting for someone to call you back, or you're looking at something, and it comes to mind. I got a picture of him. I want to show you. I've got a picture I put on my refrigerator of him. You can't see it, can you? That was my guy. You know, and it was on Instagram. I think they put out. Majority Report did, and I want to frame that. I want to frame this picture. Now I've got it on my little refrigerator, you know, but I want to frame this shit. Michael was loved by many, you know, and it makes me just say, you know, appreciate people while they're here. Be thankful for them. Be thankful for the sacrifice they take. We needed him. The world's getting worse. Things are getting worse. The pandemic's still raging on. There may be a second wave. It may mutate. Now Fauci's talking about we need to wear goggles and maybe airborne. Let me show you something real quick. Well, let me say this as well to y'all. I think that for many people, they view the left as, you know, people who want to live in a wonderland and people who are not realistic about the world around them. And I that was my thought about the left. And Michael Brooks destroyed that notion, you know, and that's why I say I'm a gun owner, you know, and I have different other perspectives. I'm a prepper, you know. I think that a part of being a leftist or progressive or socialist or whatever is understanding that this system is not sustainable. And you have a lot of people, you see this with them not wanting to wear masks and making fun of climate change, who don't care about how their way of life affects other people. They want their way of life to continue. And so they're willing to sacrifice my life and the lives of others just to maintain their system of consumption. That basically puts the nails in the coffin. I mean, climate change is bad enough, the science, I know about the science and all that. But the fact that you have so many people who are so unwilling to listen to science and researchers, people like Dr. Fauci and people at the CDC, it kind of makes my point for me. And with this pandemic, I'm gonna tell you, I understand why HIV was so bad now. I do. I get it. That you have a class of people out here who have hatred in their hearts and who you could just, well, the gay people's a gay cancer, and they believe it, and they'll go along with that. They're like, yeah, gay people deserve it, even though nobody gay has done anything wrong with them. Maybe gay people have helped them. It doesn't matter. Same thing with climate change. I just realized that they have a way of life. They want to lead. They don't care how their way of life affects others. Period. And it just, like I said, it just dooms the rest of us. It is what it is. I'm a gun owner. I'm a prepper. And I think that this thing may get worse. Before, well, I don't know the time now, but it may get worse. I got a whole bunch of these shits I'm going to show you here today. I bought from China. This bag is huge. Okay, now these are basically N95 types things, if you can read it, 3M. I got like 100 of these. Alright. And you do the math if you want to. This is my pride and joy. It's a 502 thing. I just got this because I've noticed if I was to bump it, this thing will come off. And just all it is let me show you. It just holds this to that, and you get that's inside of there. Now, if things get bad in the fall, and I was looking at this last night, hopefully it doesn't, I've got this. But I don't need it. I got everything set up on it. I can basically rig up the same system on this that I have on this. I was just too fucking hot to wear it. But Fauci talking about needing to wear goggles. I mean, I've got goggles too. You can see. Got goggles as well. Yeah. But hopefully we don't need them. Hopefully. Sometimes I think it's how I felt with Michael Brooks, that the left is like, it's all about throwing individual rights out the window, and that you can't be a prepper and be a liberal or a socialist. Like, even if you were to know all the economics and like read all of that stuff by Gramsci, read all of Marx, if you don't support giving up all of your personal stuff, then you're not a socialist. And I realize that's not really true, because that's nonsense. That's what conservatives do. They take socialist stuff, they put it to the nth degree, to the most extreme degree. That's what they do. Because it's not about arguing against socialism. It's about making socialism look as radical as possible. I've showed you my respirators. I've showed you this before. I think that basically living in a deregulated, laissez-faire society, it creates a situation to where people are desperate. That's why you have crimes of desperation, like George Floyd. I think that the fact you have a society that is so against any idea of egalitarianism, I think that all of that, it's going to make the collapse of America that much worse. And I think that being a socialist at this point, not 20, 30 years, 50 years ago, but at this point, socialism is simply acknowledging, to be a socialist is to acknowledge that the American system is not sustainable. It cannot last. Not that it's going to collapse tomorrow and we're going to have a revolt. No, because we saw that with Bernie Sanders, that people maybe they're not ready for that, maybe they don't want that, but that the system's just unstable. And all it takes is coronavirus. All it takes is climate change. All it takes is these. And I think that over time, I think I think Americans are starting to get it that in America you're really on your own. You are. You're really and you know I made a video with my friend Denzel how he was like he didn't really like Bernie Sanders because he felt like look at all the tax cuts and all that. And I'm like, yes, but look at what you're looking at. You want Trump? You want someone who's completely deregulated capitalism? See, Denzel's looking at short term tax cuts right now. I'm looking at 10 years from now when we get a worse pandemic. And once again, the resources are not there for masks and for protective gear. I'm looking at a society to where the South has made getting unemployment hard as hell. You got to call on a Tuesday and let it ring 3 times, and you hang up, and you call. I'm talking about that. I'm talking about where people are waiting in line in their cars for hours just to understand why they're in a line to find out what unemployment's. You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about. And next time it may be worse. Coronavirus to me was a wake-up call that pure free market capitalism does not work. And what's worse, it puts all our lives in danger. That's what I'm trying to say to y'all. So I don't sit here with this nonsense of let's just disarm, and that being a liberal means that obviously being a socialist means that I'm completely asleep. And I just believe in everything the government says, and to me honestly, when I hear stuff like that, that's really like cult stuff. That is. That's like cult stuff. And I can understand anybody that has a problem with that type of a philosophical organization or position. I can completely understand anybody that doesn't care about that. You don't make all my magazines clear like that. These are the full Mako jackets, but I got hollow points in there too. Yep. Sure enough. So I feel as though you're in a system that's collapsing. And that's just the way it is. Actually, this is a gift. This is my gift from you. You can pop that loose. To loosen it. This hanging in my closet. Hang this in the back of my closet. I was hanging it up in the living room, but it's kind of depressing to see this when I come home from work. It's kind of depressing to see this because I don't want to have to ever use this. I bought this a couple months ago off of Wish. It works. This is actually interesting because your exhale goes out here. You can exhale all you want. The inhale, if you block this, you can't inhale. I haven't seen a lot of masks. Like a lot of masks, you exhale out here, which is that's pretty cool. So, but yeah. So I Chris Hedges talked about that too. I think that's really the left, the Democratic Party. That give up all your guns and don't be too smart and don't be too political, and that's the Democratic Party, which I am certainly not a Democrat. I'm a socialist. I am definitely a progressive. Yeah, I want to be very clear about that. I am definitely. I remember back in 2013, I was reading a book about George Bush. And I was reading about the case of impeachment against George Bush. And it was just talking about different things he had done, lies and stuff like that. And I remember, maybe it wasn't 2013, but I remember when they went into Iraq 2003. I'm sorry. Yeah. And you had the discussion about weapons of mass destruction, and they didn't find anything. And I remember expecting the Democrats to have hearings about it, and people would face charges about it and things like that, and nothing took place. And I just remember from then on, that's why I was a libertarian. I thought libertarianism, I'm not going into this too long, but libertarianism I thought was the only real humanitarian political viewpoint, because libertarianism was talking about, like, when I saw libertarianism as a black man, and they're talking about end the drug war and things like that, I felt like, as a black man, I had money back then, that this is the only way to be. I wasn't a Republican. I was never a Republican. Even though people out here thought I'm never a Republican. I never was. But, I listen to InfoWars, listen to Alex Jones, and, the gold and all this kind of stuff, and knowing about the volatility of the American dollar. We knew about them possibly going to war with China. We knew about stuff like that back then. And so for me, it was like, you're a libertarian. And, I realized libertarianism does nothing for climate change. Libertarianism does nothing for pandemic. Libertarianism does nothing for anything that is outside of normal operations. And as a grown man, and this is what you learn when you grow up as an adult. It's what you learn. You learn that in a world like this, where we're having so much natural resource extraction, burning of the Amazon, and when you got these kind of events going on, you're in the collapse right now. You're watching the collapse. And so what that means is you're going to have unforeseen circumstances, such as coronavirus. These are things you can't expect. I remember reading, like back in March, I started reading about different drills they've had in the past. Operation Dark Winter, was it Crimson Red? The British had a thing, Operation, was it Xerxes or something like that? And they've all talked about needing ventilators. They've all talked about what's it called, Disease X. Yeah, they knew this. They knew way before coronavirus, and that's why I jump on Trump. But I really get frustrated when I'm looking at a society that's known about the possibility of a pandemic for a long time, and they've done nothing to prepare for it. That, to me, is the most frustrating thing. Knowing that, hey, there's no profit in disaster preparedness. And you're putting billions of dollars, we're talking about the federal. We're talking about billions of dollars being put away in stuff that you'll never use, and a good portion of it is probably going to go to waste. Yeah, I mean, masks, molds. Even under good circumstances, things go bad over the years, and that's not how our system is set up. I've said it before. It's not a country. You're on your own. This is not a country. America is a business. Don't forget that. You're on your own. Now, that's what coronavirus showed a lot of people, and I hope that it will inspire the left to recognize. To me, there's certain. I don't want to make socialist or liberal politics out like it's religious, but there are just certain things in government that should be holy, that you just can't touch. And a certain amount of disaster preparedness funding is holy, should not be touched. It just shouldn't. And I hope that that's what the left, if Biden is elected, That's one of the main things Biden does is he creates some kind of bill or law to where we say, listen, man, we can't have this happen again. And we're going to set things up to where you cannot defund the CDC. You cannot do this. You know, and I notice a lot of Trump talks about, conservatives talk about how he had an economy before the coronavirus. You don't get a do-over. That's not how Obama didn't get that. You don't get it. Well, because this was like this before the. That's not how this thing works. And now he's trying to say Obama H1N1. They had it. This is not H1N1. This is not the era. This is a different decade, bro. That don't work. That's not, you know. Also, another thing about H1N1, if you want to be really nasty about it, I watched the speech. Obama took that very seriously. He went on TV and he was like, "This," and he said, "Our things may change as time goes on." Trump did nothing for 2 months. I shouldn't have to go any further than that. That he did nothing for 2 months. And now he's saying he's against vote by mail in a pandemic. Doesn't know absentee and vote by mail is the same thing. And he's saying that if he's telling the hospitals to send the research numbers directly to the White House instead of the CDC. So he's altering the numbers. I don't have to explain what this is. This is a guy that mocked the pandemic. He mocked it. Now Dr. Fauci had to have armed protection for his safety, for his family, and for himself in a pandemic. This is what the Trump era has done. This is the hate of science. This is the hate of the hate of experts. That when we have these disasters, you know, you're doing things to act against the experts. I gotta tell you, anybody trying to be a doctor or a nurse right now, I don't understand you. You're not appreciated in this country. Oh yeah, if you stop somebody who's fucking, you know, having a heart attack from dying, yeah, I'm sure they're happy about that. If you stop somebody from, you know, dying of a disease that's curable, I guess, but if you're a doctor and you're simply asked to wear masks in a pandemic, they're saying that that's their civil rights to not do so. That they think it's their individual right. There are no individual rights during a fucking pandemic. It doesn't work. There are certain emergencies where individual rights go by the wayside. This is basic information. We shouldn't be discussing this at this point. But you actually have a president that when they ask him about wearing masks and mask mandates, he's talking about patriotism. Patriotism has nothing to do with an emergency, guys. I should have to explain this. And this is how dumb they are. This is literally how dumb the people we're talking about are. That they follow that. And now he's wearing a mask. I don't know if that's good or not. I mean, I know a lot of people on the left are like, look, even if he does things, like let's say Trump had a mask company and he pushed the masks and a bunch of rednecks wore masks and he made money. The left, people on the left will be like, good, that's good. Even though he made money off corrupt means because people would be wearing masks. I get that. Okay, I understand. I get their point. It's a reasonable point they're making. Okay, I get it. But it's just so frustrating to know you have this level of corruption with Trump and the fact that we're actually still talking about him possibly being reelected. It's distasteful. And it's an outrage and it's injustice made manifest for all to see. Peace.